Hello and welcome to the Encephalitis Podcast. My name is Prav Prathapan and I'm from Encephalitis International. Today, we'll be talking about the process of returning to school after encephalitis. To learn more, I'm grateful to be speaking with someone who has been through it all with her lovely son, Dian, Ms. Hina Debasia. Hina, welcome to the Encephalitis Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me.
So could you take us back to 2021 when Dian was first affected by encephalitis and your story from that point onwards?
Yeah, from November 2021, that's when we actually first witnessed Dian having a seizure, and he was rushed to hospital. Um, and that's where the journey started to where we are today. It was endless testing. The medical team um, did a lot of examinations just to figure out where we are with his health. Why is he having the seizures? A lot of um, a lot of a lot of the hospital team came back to navigate and explain to us where and what the options and why he was having these seizures were. We were we were waiting for a lot of the tests to come through to kind of rule out, is it just epilepsy? Is it autoimmune encephalitis? What is the background to why he's having these seizures? And from there, we were fortunate enough to have a great a hospital who still under Dian's taken Dian under their wing to support him through where we are now with this autoimmune encephalitis. They did further testing and actually basically they um, they ruled out what they could in terms of scientific levels of, is he the blood tests and the lumbar punches and the MRIs and everything that was done to test for autoimmune encephalitis. They wanted to tick those boxes to see. Unfortunately, Dian came back not having hit any of those markers. They couldn't find any reasoning behind that. So we were kind of sent back home in limbo of not really knowing where we stand, what's going on, how do we manage the fact that he's still having these tonic clonic seizures. He was given medication, which we were giving. And this whole seizures and autoimmune encephalitis is all new to us. We've not known any family, friends, no one to know anything. So we're obviously trying to figure out from their advice what it is, learn a bit more about it and have that understanding. And it was small things that were happening at home that we realized there's something more to him than just epilepsy. There's more to his seizures. From a boy who was above level academic, from a boy who loved building age above Lego. He loved watching movies, laughing, giggling, doing puzzles. We came back to someone who was quiet, someone who was with us but not with us. It's a very weird way to explain it. And it was just that these things we were noticing, and I'm glad we were witnessing and noticing these things. Even with him building Lego, he gave up at the most easiest ones possible, yet he was 7 at the time, building 14 plus. So it was the markers that we were seeing that we raised with the hospital who wanted to do further testing. We were lucky enough that summer we actually had the best summer ever, where we took Dian to lots of theme parks. We went Legoland, Chessington, Gulliver's Land, Cotswold Wildlife Safari Park. We did a lot with him and my husband and my daughter and cousins. And when we walked in to see the consultant after all the testing was done, they were ticking the boxes and asking us, Dian, how are you? How are you feeling? They were asking us questions about how he was at home. So we were kind of explaining what we're noticing. And the key one was, Dian, how was your summer? Did you do anything? And he stood back and said, no, I didn't do nothing. I was at home. So it was a bit of a shock for us as parents to think, oh my God, he doesn't remember something which a child would remember. My daughter clearly remembers, she's only 5. So that led to further questions of, we will rule out it's autoimmune encephalitis. Shall we start treatments? Shall we figure out which way forward? And we were lucky enough that when they did the first round of treatment, which was the steroids, we saw a big change in him. He was having the tonic-clonic seizures, but we saw a big change in his personality. He came out. So clearly there was inflammation in the brain, but obviously not by the markers that they had known. And that led to then more, should we try more? So he had further treatments done to reduce his immune system down, which complicated things with his seizures. But it gave us a bit more of a understanding of getting that inflammation down and figuring out how can we get Dian back to some close to a state of how he was before all of this.
So you said Dian was 7 years old. He would have been in year two in the UK schooling system. And my question to you is, what was the process of going back to school and getting an educational plan in order?
So initially, when he was at home from this onset of these seizures, he took a good 4 months off, recovering from what he was dealing with, and for us to navigate how do we manage these intense seizures. They did a really good slow transition, which was amazing, where we felt he was ready to slowly go back. He was ready himself, feeling he wants to go back to his friends, his classroom. So it was a good slow transition they did with a few hours every day to lead up to half a day to a few days a week, and slowly transition him in. The most amazing part was before he even started school, his class group were notified. I mean, we asked the teachers, because a lot of the teachers were saying they're all asking about Dian. Where is he? Because he was well liked in that classroom and loved and known. They sent a lovely video to him to tell him, get better, and we miss you, and we're ready to support you when you come back. So that gave him that encouragement to go back to the school. And then they did the slow transition, and initially, before they did the slow transition, obviously we went to the school, they spoke to the welfare, spoke to the teachers. We read up a lot on Encephalitis International. We read up on his how it was affected him, and how he was himself at home. So we kind of had that good discussion with the school, with Dian. So this whole journey, we've always included Dian into that, so he can have a voice. And he actually spoke to the teachers, spoke to the welfare, and explained what he wanted the kids to know and what he didn't want them to know. So it kind of led to him taking the lead of how he felt comfortable being back in that classroom.
Amazing. And I love that idea of the video. I mean, that's so inspiring. And it must have also helped with the memory as well, and remembering school friends and all that. So that sounds amazing. And that slow transition, I think, is really important. Was that part of a broader educational plan?
That was, and they did say that we can't just keep him, they can't just put him straight in straight away. They've got to actually do it in stages, which I felt comfortable for him and for ourselves, and also for the teachers, because they didn't know what to expect. They didn't know how to manage and handle him.
And so when he was back in school, could you talk us through what that was like when he was back? Because
It
obviously he was
was,
a higher kind of performing student at one point, and then
yeah, it was a big struggle, because he went back in, and the teachers um, were trying to be as supportive, but they knew he's capable of doing that age appropriate work. So there wasn't much implemented in his learning. There wasn't much put in place in terms of let's try and catch him up, because they didn't need to. He was actually falling from above to kind of going to the same level in that year two. He was going with the way they were teaching and what he was understanding. But I feel that they didn't realize, and we didn't realize until years later, that it's the way he was absorbing that work. He would be sitting there, they would be thinking and assuming that he's understanding what they're teaching. And because he was able to do a little bit, but not remember everything that he had learned before, they kind of just left him to it for a bit initially. And then that's when alarm bells were ringing for us and for him, because when we were working through things at home, he wasn't remembering, he wasn't understanding. So then that's when we had to have further kind of meetings with the school to say, okay, how do we manage this?
And just on the kind of home environment, what was the impact for you as a family? I know he has a little sister, Ashika. What was the impact like?
It affected all of us so much that we were all traumatized in our own way. I've never witnessed anyone have a seizure, let alone when it's your own child going through that. That scared us totally. And then we neglected Ashika. Naturally, in that moment of when he's having that seizure at home, we're running to him. So not realizing until after that she's sitting there on the sofa crying her eyes out because she's just witnessed something quite traumatic as well. And it stripped all of our freedoms. It stripped us all in a way where we were lost in this journey. We didn't know how do we manage and navigate this, because it was really scary for all of us in our own way. We I needed to, and I realized the panic that Ashika was having, and Dian wasn't understanding what was going on because he's just shaken up by his seizures, that we needed to get more support in place. I managed to get counselling done for myself to figure out how do I manage what I'm witnessing and how we are doing it. And I was lucky enough that when I raised concerns with the schools, they managed to implement that for both the children. So Ashika and Dian both got the counselling, because it was something which they didn't know Dian didn't know what was going on in his body, and how he was managing things. There was a lot of anger and frustration at school, fights with some of the friends that he wouldn't normally ever do. And then for Ashika, there was panic attacks and anxiety, and we didn't know what was going on and why. So it was amazing that the school were very quick when I raised the concerns to step in and actually get that. And that really helped, because then collectively all three of us would be talking about how we were feeling, what we were being taught through counselling, and that opened up the conversation about how do we manage this. So we were all putting in our input in terms of what's scaring us in that journey, and it's bonded us, all four of us, in a way where we openly talk about his seizures. And Ashika now has become so much more confident, which hats off to her for a 5-year-old girl to watch most of his seizures, to now know and guide her cousins, her grandparents on what to do if he was to have one. She's become stronger. He's become stronger to accept it and advocate, and actually say to his friends, yes, I've got epilepsy. Yes, I've had autoimmune encephalitis. Yes, my memory is slow. Yes, I can't do this, but I will do it at my own pace. So it's been brilliant in that way, that we've had that support from the school, and we've kind of just navigated, but it's impacted us in the worst way possible, but we're turning that into a good.
Amazing. And of course, now it's been 5 years. Dian is now 12 years old, in high school in year 7. So what's school like now?
So we now, obviously, every parent kind of gets anxious. We were anxious about the transition from a primary school to the high school, because there's a lot more lessons, there's a lot more walking around, and there's a lot more to navigate, knowing where his memory, his processing, his cognition, everything was affected by this autoimmune encephalitis. How do we manage it? But the high school have been amazing. He's been amazing, where he, despite having daily seizures, he will still want to go to school. He will still want to actually be in that school and want to be part of the class and be there, be present and learn. And they've been amazing in supporting us, especially with this whole fight of trying to get the educational healthcare plan and the support in place. But they've been really, really good. And I think what I've learned through this journey from primary school to the high school, it's the communication and the teamwork between a parent and the school, that's really been the key, is being transparent about what I see, what we see at home, me and my husband, and how we're guiding the schools and how they're seeing what he's like at school, because he's spending a lot of time there, to work together, to communicate together.
Amazing. And I like the idea of that you're guiding the school. And that actually leads me on to my next question, which is if you were to give advice to other families going through this process, what would that be?
I would say initially we had a lot of roadblocks at the primary school because of him being above academic level, because of them not understanding the autoimmune encephalitis, what to do with the seizures. From a parent to a parent, you know your child best. You know where and what support that child needs. And instead of, I didn't want to just sit in that room and demand, I want this, and this done. I was just open and honest about, this is what we're seeing at home. This is what we have put measures in place that are working. What can you do to make him work? Because clearly he wants to be at school. He wants to carry on living the life that he had before, but it's just navigating it in a different way. And it's that communication. It's working. Yes, we might have to be a bit more persistent. I've had to be a bit more hands-on and have regular meetings. I'm constantly, daily emailing the school. He's had one today. He can't come in. He might come in a little bit later. Any key updates that we feel he's got changes or anything going on at home, we've kind of just emailed the schools or rang them, and they've done the same thing. So it's working as a team. And if you feel you're not being heard, then definitely ask for support from Encephalitis International, from anywhere, any parents, anyone who might be able to then be able to put that help in place to say, okay, I think, can you please support these parents do more, and teach them and guide them.
Amazing. And we are coming towards the end of the podcast, and I just wanted to ask how you came across Encephalitis International.
Um, when we were given the diagnosis, it was kind of really hard to figure out how and where do we get the reading materials? How do we understand and navigate what is this condition that's been given? And it was through Encephalitis International that I decided to do the first call with parents, and I met an amazing team who navigated that initial meet, and it was amazing to embrace that we're not alone. I'm not alone. There are others going through it, and we were bouncing off ideas, which was really giving me strength to feel we can do more. I can navigate a bit more. And then also the Encephalitis International were amazing with sending me enough reading materials and understanding, even though everything's on the website, it's just that whole empathy and understanding and support information and talking, giving us that guidance of how do I navigate this journey and how do I get the schools to navigate, because that's the hardest, is teaching them. We're teaching ourselves, but teaching the schools, how do we navigate that, and get them to understand where his needs are.
Amazing. And yep, we have come to the end of the podcast. And just before closing, is there anything that we have not discussed that you'd like to mention?
I think it would be the fact that it's an amazing charity and an amazing work that you do. And without that support, I wouldn't have been able to be where I am right now, to fight for his educational healthcare plan, to fight for the right support and measures that the school are now putting in place. So I would say to any parent who's going through this, try not to give up, try and use this platform. And I hope that what we've gone through, and where we pick the fine line between his learning ability, what he can and cannot do, don't give up, because there's ways around it. Our motto as a family is own it, and let's do something about it. So we are trying to focus on the positive. He may have a slow brain, but he's able to do it. He is now building his big adult Lego. It just takes him longer to do, and it doesn't matter. It's the fact that he's navigating it around that. So don't give up.
Amazing. Well, thank you, Hina, for sharing your story with us. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
And finally, I'd like to thank you, the audience, for listening and watching. If you have been affected by any of the issues raised, wherever you live in the world, please contact our support services. Encephalitis International is here to help in whatever way we can to achieve our aim of ending death and disability from encephalitis. For all our information and support services, please visit encephalitis.info. And if you have found this podcast useful or interesting, please consider supporting our life-saving work by visiting encephalitis.info/donate. Thank you again, and see you next time on the Encephalitis Podcast.